Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Carroll. I'm one of the founders of Clever. And what a just crazy and challenging time we are going through. I'm so happy to have such a great audience of folks to get together. This is the first time we've ever done something like this, this kind of a town hall. We're going to be talking with a few panelists. We've got some incredible district admins here joining us. We've got an incredible audience. I see over 200 people already, and that number is going up every second. And our goal for this town hall is to get together, to ask questions, to share our ideas from this, Clever community, and to help each other get through this. I know that for many of you, I'm sure for all of you, this is an incredibly challenging professional time. I'm also sure for many of you, this is also a challenging personal time. I'm just really given strength by the ability for everyone to come together and help each other out. So this is something new. I'm so excited everyone's here. I think it could be something really powerful. And we're excited for everyone to participate and engage and support each other through this town hall. Let's talk a little bit about how this is going to work. So the platform we're using today is Zoom Webinar. Erin, can you move us to the next slide? Fantastic. So we are using the Zoom webinar platform. And like I mentioned, we want this to be really engaging. So the way this, we've been using Zoom at Clever a lot over the past couple of weeks. And I know some of you have started using Zoom, within your districts and within classrooms. So the way we're going to use this today is a few things. So one is that everyone has the ability to ask questions in the Zoom console. I see some great questions already that are popping up, and you also have the ability to upvote questions and to answer them. So please stay engaged with that Q&A. I think it's going to be a really powerful tool. We also can chat. And so you're all invited to share thoughts, comments via chat. In fact, if you'd like to just kind of introduce yourself in the chat right now and say hi to everyone and what district you're from and how you're doing right now, that'd be great. We'd love to hear from everybody. It will be a little bit of a torrent of information because we do have a lot of people, but I think it'd be great to say hi so we know where everyone's coming from. This session is being recorded, so no need to take notes. You'll get this in your email probably on Monday. There's a little bit of a backlog with Zoom about sessions being processed, but as soon as they process it, we'll share it out. Thanks for introducing yourself, everyone. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Tia. Hi, Sherry. Lots of great folks in this crazy busy time. And then also, if you'd like, you can also send a tweet if there's something that comes out here that's really powerful that you want to share with your Twitter community. Please, take a screenshot, share a quote, share a link. We'd love it if you tagged @Clever and used the hashtag remote learning, which has become a very popular one recently. I also just want to remind everyone, if you look at that link in the bottom right, Clever's put together a page of resources, clever.com/learning@home. We've got a list of all of our application partners that are offering free licenses or other benefits to schools during this challenging time. That's a great one to visit if you haven't been there already. And please bookmark it. We are updating it every day as more information comes in. So that is our quick logistical information. Oh, we've got a screenshot for you if you're new to Zoom and you're wondering, how do people get to that chat? Where is that Q&A? We've got a screenshot for you in just a second so you can see where those features are. They should just be at the bottom of your screen, a little button that says Q&A and a little button that says chat. Hey, Erin, can we advance the slide? Fantastic. So those buttons will be your friend. And also with chat, keep in mind that you can chat with just panelists, or you can also chat with everybody. I see everyone right now is chatting with everyone, which is fantastic. I think that's a great to allow us to have a real community conversation. All right, so next up, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit more and introduce my wonderful colleagues who are here. I'm Dan, like I mentioned. I'm the co-founder and chief product officer at Clever. I also used to be a middle school science teacher and a tech director in Denver, Colorado. Hillary, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you everyone so much for joining. My name is Hillary Ludlow. I work with our large district partners in how to solve problems and deploy Clever in their school districts. Previously, I was working in a similar capacity at another technology company. So really kind of bridging that gap between users and technology and making sure everyone feels empowered to use Clever to the best of their ability.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremy Krauthimmel, and I also work at Clever on our big district success team. So I support large school districts in New York and Texas. I saw Carrie from Dallas is here, and in my home state of North Carolina. Before I was at Clever, I was a nationally board certified teacher. I taught middle and high school English in the South Bronx and Oakland. And I'm excited to bring my teacher perspective as well as my supporting district's perspective to this conversation. Thanks for joining.
All right, but this webinar is not just Clever people. We have a couple of fantastic districts in the house. So Spokane, how about you introduce yourselves?
Hey there, everybody. I'm Betsy Weigel. I'm the ed tech lead for Spokane Public Schools here in Washington State, which seems to be ground zero right now for all things COVID. I have classroom experience. I cover K-12. I'm the go-between for all departments in our district and our teachers. You guys know what ed tech does. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here with Clever, right? And here's my partner here.
Hi, I'm Chris Lamb. I'm actually on the application development team, and really I'm just one of the Clever admins working with Betsy to keep the house running while things are going crazy.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have Troy from Hillsborough. Troy, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name is Troy Suarez. I'm the supervisor of instructional technology from Hillsborough, and I would like to say we have a lot of our people online. That's great to see. I am the Clever administrator in Hillsborough County Public Schools, and we are, just so you kind of have a quick synopsis of our district, we're about 65% free and reduced lunch, and the 7th largest district in the country.
So lucky to have you on, Troy. And unfortunately, our third panelist, Debbie, just found out a minute before this was going to start that her superintendent was pulling her into an emergency all-hands meeting. So we're missing her now. She might be able to join us later. We'll keep an eye out for her. But you know, we all understand that when a superintendent calls an emergency meeting, you got to be there. All right, well, let's talk about the topics we're going to focus on today. So the three topics that we think we've been hearing about the most from the districts we work with that we think we might be able to really help each other out on. The first one is, you know, how do we do distance learning? How do we keep learning going during this challenging time? The second one is communication. And we've got a lot of aspects of that we want to get into. How are districts communicating within themselves? How are districts communicating to teachers? How are teachers and students communicating, and what tools are supporting that? And the third one is, you know, one thing that we felt at Clever is that for the past week, every day has felt like a whole new world. And as things are changing so quickly, how can we quickly adapt to the new world and reality? And how can we get information about what's working and what's not and get feedback so that we can all adapt quickly in this just incredibly turbulent time? And then last but not least, we will open things up to Q&A for the last 15 or 20 minutes today and just go through those top questions that you're asking us. Before we get started, we do have a poll for everyone. We want to hear from you which of these three topics is the biggest challenge you're facing right now? Is it setting up a distance learning model? Is it training your teachers? Or is it communicating with families? So a little bit different than these three topics, but between those three, setting up distance learning, training teachers, communicating with families, take a second to answer the poll that'll be popping up and let us know which is the biggest challenge you're facing right now. All right. So let's jump into that first topic of distance learning a little bit. So within this question that we have about how can we provide engaging learning opportunities to all students, and we're emphasizing all there because we know that equity is one of the biggest challenges schools and districts are facing right now. Yeah, it sounds like the poll didn't launch, but thank you everyone for sharing your answers in the chat. So we want to ask this question, and before we get into this with our panelists, we're going to be talking to our district panelists first here. I wanted to share just one example that we found on Twitter, and I think Jeremy's actually going to walk us through how Milwaukee is thinking about setting up distance learning.
Yeah, so Milwaukee is one of the wonderful districts that I support. And one way that parents and teachers and students have been pretty conditioned to get information about school closure, during a snow day or any other sort of event is to go to their homepage. So one thing that they did is they put their distance learning plan front and center so that folks who are used to going to the Milwaukee Public Schools landing page, it's the first thing they see. They provide a link so that it kind of lays out exactly where to go, how to log in. And then from there, they can kind of explore the best ways to support their students that are learning at home. Teachers can find more information about how to best support their students from afar. And it's kind of in one central place that everyone can start with. And it's very comfortable going to.
Thanks, Jeremy. So let's turn to our panelists, and how about we start with the folks in Spokane here. How have you gotten started with setting up distance learning for your students and teachers? What are some of the approaches that you've taken? Unfortunately, you've been ahead of the game here.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind is that we got the official word from the governor 1 week ago today that we were closing all schools in the state. And so Monday was our last day of school. So we've turned this around in a very short period of time. Of course, our number one concern, I'm going to step away from learning for a second, but our number one concern was getting our children and their families fed and how to access those resources. That was the first thing that went up on our district website. The next thing was any other support services we could offer in connection with community support. That's on our district website. And then it's getting students access to technology resources, how to get free Wi-Fi, how to get them connected at home. And we're in the process of deploying, I think we've had 3,000 requests for laptops. We're not a take-home laptops district until Tuesday was our first day of deploying devices out to families in need. Our district is about 56% free and reduced, and we're prioritizing devices to those families, but are fulfilling requests for families that don't have, all they have is a cell phone. We know to optimize learning, hopefully soon, that students would benefit from having a laptop. In the last year, we just deployed a one-to-one initiative in our buildings, so we do have devices out there we can check out. The next thing we did is last weekend, we put together K-12 learning tools and resources for families and put them up in a publicly accessible page called spokaneschools.org/learning-at-home. Where families can go for learning resources. Our number one goal right now is to maintain learning, things that have happened in schools. We're just going to maintain what they already know, and we're in the process of developing a plan to then start teaching virtually. We don't know how long this is going to go. Right now we're shut down till the end of April. We suspect it will go longer. So we want to kind of take a step back now and curate our resources and put together a well-developed plan. All staff everybody is actually going in through Clever right now to access the digital resources. Teachers sent home packets of worksheets as well for all kinds of kids. Another thing we're doing is, of course, we have some tier 1 teachers that aren't used to using a lot of technology to interact with students. So there's a huge professional development push that we are deploying right now as well. So it's a kind of a twofold thing for engaging students in learning opportunities is you have to have a well-trained staff first, so they know how to do this. And then getting students to engage. as some of our meals. So we're doing a drive-by meal thing, and we've been chatting up students, and some of them aren't hugely motivated right now because spring just hit in Spokane and it is gorgeous outside. So learning is not their number one concern. But I think they all said they miss their teacher and they're ready to do something. So, we're putting everything we can in our social media feed, driving people to the resources on our district webpage that are publicly accessible.
Thanks, Betsy. That's a lot.
It is a lot in a few days.
Troy, do you want to follow up? How are things similar or different from the way you're approaching this in Tampa?
Absolutely. So first of all, ditto, just about, because things have been changing so fast here. It's kind of hard to feel like you're getting a hold of anything, because as the stuff moves very quickly, and you start to plan for one eventuality, there's another one that's coming up or that's different. And so we now at least have this week starting on Monday where teachers will be planning to support their kids online. The kids won't actually come back till the following Monday. And so we have been working on the communications of all of that. And I think that it might be a good thing to kind of explain how we came to where we are a little bit with respect to the stuff that we have. And so at first, it was, okay, so how do we make something, how do we start today to do anything, not knowing what this was going to look like. And so those things were about getting messages out to parents and teachers, make sure that you can log into EDSB, which is our gradebook, make sure that you can log into Clever. If you can't, start taking steps to rectify that now so we can get that done before we even have to close. Well, we ended up having to close pretty quickly, but in the process of us getting to that point, we thought, okay, so how are we going to do this? And first and foremost, we want to make sure that the teachers are able to continue their teaching. And so when that's possible, we want to allow the teachers and provide the teachers the vehicles to do that. But we also know that if we are closed for one and people are getting sick, that teachers could get sick. So what has to happen if those teachers get sick? And so the one thing, I'm in teaching and learning. I work with both IT and teaching and learning, but I sit in teaching and learning. And it was very important for us to plan for the eventuality that a student may not have a teacher. And so we developed what we developed on Clever with that in mind, that if a teacher is out and the student doesn't have instruction, what can the student do? What we've been planning now that we have some of that stuff up there is how do we train our teachers? And while we're 6 years into this grade book, it's not a mandatory grade book. So teachers haven't had to use it. So there are lots of teachers now who are taking trainings. We have an excellent tech training department who has been working overtime. This is our spring break. None of us have had a spring break, but have been working overtime to get people through their training. They've been training 500 teachers a day online with our grade book. So we are pushing communications out both through social media, through our communications department, through whatever means we can alert our teachers and our parents. And by the looks of the volume of the email that I get and other people are getting, the teachers are paying a lot of attention to it. So.
I wanted to chime in with one thing too. The approach that Spokane is taking about maintaining learning right now has to do with the fact that until we can have equitable learning for all students and ensuring that every student has access to education, we can't require that or assess it. Right now it's maintenance of learning, and we're developing plans so that we can support students with IEPs, 504s who get OT, PT, our ELL students, until we can ensure that they too have an equitable education for their learning plans. It's a maintenance mode. So I just wanted to explain that's why we are where we are. Something to consider.
Yeah, Betsy, I think that's a critical point about you know, we want to make sure the opportunity to learn is still there, but it's going to take a long time before we can sort of think about grades and accountability and things like that. Jeremy and Hillary, you've worked with a lot of districts over the past few weeks. Is there anything that you've seen with all the districts you partner with that you wanted to share?
Go ahead, Hillary.
Hillary, go for it.
Yeah, so I think what I've seen, especially in this initial phase of getting folks set up, is kind of what both Troy and the Spokane folks mentioned, is making sure folks know where to go. So really being clear and communicating around where those resources live, but also how to log into those resources. So I've seen some of the districts that I work with do a phenomenal job of adding additional notes to their login page if they're relying on Clever, you know, really building out some great district website resources around kind of what to expect per grade level. I know, Troy, you did that for Hillsborough in a really thoughtful way. So making sure that for initial communication of, you know, where am I actually going and where am I finding these resources is crystal clear, has seemed like a really important part of this equation.
Thanks, Hillary. All right, let's move on to the second topic around communication. So we are curious about how folks are thinking about enabling clear lines of communication to the school community. And some of that is, you know, there's lots of lines that need to be established. As a district, how are you making plans and communicating with your teachers? How are you communicating with families about where to go and what to do? And how are you making sure that your teachers can communicate with their students? Because I know that so many students are craving that kind of really, you know, to stay in touch with their teacher who they're missing while they're at home. Maybe this time we want to start with Troy. How is Hillsborough thinking about, you know, establishing clear lines of communication? Oh, so, sorry, I'm sorry. We've got one example that we wanted to talk to before I called on you.
Okay. Absolutely.
So sorry to put you on hold for a second. Let's talk about Columbus City.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been supporting the folks at Columbus City who are doing some really heroic work, as I know all of you are, to make sure that everybody in their school community, including parents, is really kind of kept up to date around what is available from an online learning perspective. So they made this amazing doc. They actually had a robocall go out to all of the Columbus City parents and kind of let them know where they can access information. And then they have this doc that just runs through not only, as I mentioned, kind of how to access these resources, but also resource by resource, what grade and discipline it relates to, and specifically some great kind of tutorials and a quick a way to kind of train yourself up on exactly how to use this with your child. So I thought this was a really phenomenal example of parent communication.
Thanks, Hillary. Troy, now on to you. Sorry about that interruption.
Okay. No, not a problem at all. And we've actually done almost some of the same stuff. One of the things we are really focusing on, and it's working really, we have a new superintendent, and we are working on one message. So most of the communication is coming from him, and he's done an amazing job keeping our families abreast of what's going on, including even before spring break, the Thursday and Friday before, when we knew this was coming, letting people know that there was this e-learning plan, that they would be able to go to Clever to get these activities if, for instance, if they eventually had to access those. And so not only has the communication been coming about EDSB and Clever, but also when this stuff is going to happen. And so whereas many times, especially in our district their size, lots of people are communicating stuff, we're doing a really good job at this point that it's coming from the very few people, communications, and the superintendent to make sure that it's a consistent message. And we've done phone calls probably every other day. I'm getting a phone call, parent link phone call about what's happening with the school district and resources and those type of things. We're getting emails. There's social media stuff going on. We're even in the process of designing lessons to be on our TV channel that we have here as well. And that information is being communicated out. So there's a lot of, our district is doing a really good job of a consistent one message to our parents, teachers, and students.
Thanks, Troy. I like that, thinking about making sure that it's clear about whose responsibility is to communicate so that people know who to listen to and where to tune in. How have you been thinking about communications in Spokane?
So we have been, we did do phone calls. We did a lot. We're trying to do the same thing as what Troy said. We're trying to make sure there's one communication line instead of everybody communicating at once. So we've sent phone calls out. We've been really trying to leverage our district website, like a lot of other districts. We have a little pop-up idea that we borrowed from a different district that's like, here's the resources front and center to get to the learning at home, to get to how to get meals, how to get laptops. We had one of our communications people make little one-pagers, kind of like what Hillary showed. Here's how to get these basic resources for learning.
By grade level.
By grade level. We also, what was the other thing?
Well, I can speak to teachers in particular about how their community, oh, you're to the school community. I think, are we going to talk about the family one? How teachers are communicating with families, whatever avenue they can get a hold of parents in. All social media avenues, teachers are trying everything. Spokane schools /COVID is trending, by the way. And Instagram, anything teachers can do to keep tabs on the kids and make sure everybody's okay and connect them with resources.
Yeah, we've heard lots of stories about, I gave them my cell phone number, I gave them my email address. I know one thing that kind of straddles the first and second question is we've been trying to make sure that the avenues are open for them to use the technology that they're comfortable with. If they're comfortable using Teams, great, contact your kids in Teams. If they're using Blackboard, great, use that. We're going to try to make it easy for you to do that.
We've kind of taken a shotgun approach to this in order to wrap our families up with support. I think everybody's doing that. But even still, I know I have this sinking feeling that we're missing some of our families who need our support. And I think everybody's in that same boat. So we're here to listen to suggestions as well as share what we're already doing. Because I think, communication is our #1 priority, as you well know, which is a great thing why Clever's hosting this town hall too, is a great line of communication to get ideas because we're all figuring this out together.
Yeah.
And if I can add something to that, one of the things that we're doing is being high free and reduced lunch. We have lots of students who don't have devices. And while we are trying to get devices and internet access to those students, there are those which we won't be able to do that with. And so one of our points of contact is the lunch and breakfast. And so as students come to pick up their lunch and breakfast, we have packets, printable packets, killing lots of trees, that we are giving kids so that way they can continue to learn, because unfortunately, a lot of our district doesn't have access to the technology that we're employing.
It's great to have the low-tech plan B, Troy. Jeremy and Hillary, anything you want to add from the things you've seen your districts doing to create great lines of communication?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a couple, both a district and then a teacher example. I've seen a number of my districts, right as the school closures were happening, create a quick survey to all families to say, how do you get communication? What access to resources do you have in terms of Wi-Fi and devices? And so getting that out as quickly as they can. And then for those that didn't fill it out, using robocalls. And then I've seen teachers who have been using that information to get to every kid. So I have a friend who's a teacher down in North Carolina, and she's filming herself doing a read aloud video every day. And she has her bucket of students who all have emails, parents have emails that they can use. And then she has her bucket of students where she just SMSs that video directly to the families. So she's been in contact, she's called every family. I've heard of a lot of the elementary teachers who have fewer kids are getting in contact with families, finding out the best way to communicate, and then making arrangements to get those resources directly to those families as a result of that information.
One other thing we want to add is our local PBS station reached out to us and is offering us airtime for story time, or we're thinking about doing like some science things that we can broadcast during the day for students to tune into as well. We are just, any resources that we can use for communication and learning opportunities, we're taking advantage of.
That's such a creative approach, Betsy, to collaborate with PBS to do some custom content. That's amazing. All right, let's get on to our third topic. I also see tons of great questions popping up in the Q&A, so please don't forget to add your questions in the Q&A and also upvote the ones that are relevant to you. We will be working from the top down in just a few minutes when we address the Q&A questions. All right, so the next topic I want to discuss is one that maybe isn't top of mind now, but might be coming up as we move forward, which is how can we adapt to changes that are happening daily? How can we make sure that we're being flexible, that we're capturing data and understanding what's working, and that we're adapting as the situation changes just every single day? Maybe Spokane, do you want to start us off?
Coffee and no sleep. That's how we're adapting.
Oh no.
When you're called to serve, you step up, right? So that's what we do in service to our families and our teachers who are providing that support. One thing is, you've cultivated relationships throughout your districts, and this is the time to lean on those to get that learning going and get the support services out to our families. So you got to come together as a team and try and communicate. Assign tasks so there's no confusion about who's doing what. We had a war room basically for 3 days, game planning this thing. We have daily check-ins with the leadership to make sure everybody's on the same page and that all these different projects that we have going for our families is on track. What do you think?
Well, I think one of the big things is our director kind of sat our whole department down, and one of the big things he said was, in this time, we all have to be prepared to do something that we've never done before. We're not just going to be, in our case, building software. It's not, we might be answering calls from parents, we might be answering calls from kids or chatting or something. So it's about, it is about that whole adapting thing of whatever comes up, you have to be prepared to deal with it.
Yeah, and one of our coordinators said to me early this morning, she said, it isn't, we no longer say, no, we can't do that. It's now the answer is, let us figure out how to. So really it's a mindset shift in let's, gut it out and make it happen, because it'll be worth it in the end, for our families.
Yeah. Betsy and Chris, have you built any good ways in your district of capturing feedback from students and families?
Well, I started documenting all my conversations that I'm having with students and families just one-on-one as we're deploying devices or handing out food. And so I'm capturing those. I'm constantly talking into my phone, recording all these great nuggets that they are sharing with me. We have our community relations department out there, talking to families too about what's working. We set up an all-staff team as well, Microsoft Teams, where people can share information or ask questions. And we are getting some information, some feel-good stuff that's coming in, as well as requests for support that are coming in. So we're using any avenue of communication to not only share information, but to find out what needs are, get feedback about what's working well.
Yeah, I think right now we're kind of at the stage of getting things up to help support them. So we're kind of at step one, and then I think step two is going to be the feedback portion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Troy, how is it? How are you collecting the feedback and adapting at Hillsborough?
So we start collecting the feedback Monday morning when our tech support line's open. Other than the emails that we've gotten, of course, we're getting lots of communication that way, but we will be directly interacting with our families in a call center. We're going to have a couple different groups of people answering questions, one on like password resets and that standard stuff, and then another one just for EDSB, and then me and assessment are going to be fielding calls for Clever. But, you know, I think this is funny because I'm looking at this and it's prepared to adapt. It's like, because none of us at our age level have ever experienced anything like this before. And so it is a point in which business models are changing. Things are going to happen differently. I mean, if you look at theaters now, they're going direct to consumers with some of the movies that were supposed to come out in theaters. And I think business models are going to change pretty drastically over this stuff, because we thought we couldn't do things one way before. We're learning that we can now. So I'm not sure that I'm going to adapt it all right now. In a year, I think I will have a really good answer for you. But right now, we're just really trying to make sure that we reach as many people as we can. And then, you know, once we've fielded the calls and done all that other stuff, we can sit down and then begin to look at this with calmness instead of my hair's on fire type thing. Yeah, we are definitely building the plane as it's flying, right? In a way that we've never done before, so it's pretty interesting. Yeah, and you know, Troy, it's kind of magical. I'm looking at this chat here, and we're problem solving for Hillsborough, you know, right now live. I see some questions coming up. I see you answering them. It's pretty amazing. Hillary, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the resources Clever has.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to shout out, so Prince George's has been doing a really great job of taking advantage of some of the analytics we provide from a kind of insights into who is accessing which digital resources. So that's just one thing. If you are a Clever district, if you are using Clever to kind of push out some of these resources, getting in and actually seeing who is engaging with them and who maybe needs a little bit more help, a little bit more kind of proactive training or instruction. So that's one thing I wanted to call out. And we also do have this Learning at Home portal. So if you've not seen this yet, clever.com/learningathome. And it's got a bunch of great kind of quick start videos for teachers. It has some multilingual instructions for parents for getting their students logged in, a bunch of, you know, checklists, and also a really great list of resources from our partners. So we've seen a lot of our application partners really step it up and think about how they can kind of expand their offering and meet your needs at this time. So we've been trying to kind of collect that all and make sure it's really easy for you at the district to see kind of what's available and what you might want to use to supplement your core curriculum that you've been working with so far this year.
That's fantastic. And one thing that just went live, I think just yesterday, if you're a district admin for Clever, we now have an App Store tab that you can click on, where all those applications that are offering free licenses and things like that are available for you to deploy with just a click. You can also see which resources your teachers have been adding during this time. And if a lot of your teachers in your district have been adding something, you know, you could then click there to start a conversation with the vendor about rolling it out district-wide. Please make sure that any questions you have, you're putting into the Q&A tool, because we are going to shift into Q&A mode in just a second. Before we do, I want to open the floor for kind of open thoughts or ideas from Troy, from Chris, from Betsy. Is there anything that's been going really well with your districts, or an idea that you're really excited about, or a resource you want to share that we haven't asked you about yet?
Yeah,
I guess I got to say.
Go ahead, Troy.
Okay, so I guess I would have to say it's not like a resource that's out there. I've just been impressed with, of course, this is our spring break, and there are so many of the faculty, of our supervisors, PD who've been working overtime. I mean, much more than we work overtime in a regular week to get this stuff going. And I think that human capital it's just awe-inspiring, and I'm really proud of our district for getting behind this. And we have, like you said, teachers on here who are asking questions, and they're on break too. So I got to say it's the people here who are really providing the best for what's going on.
So here in Spokane, this is This is the hard part for me to talk about, actually, is the overwhelming ability to get volunteers to step up for our families. We put out a call we needed help getting devices out to kids. We had 2,500 requests in about 24, 48 hours. And we had to clean and prep every device before we could hand it out there. The response has been overwhelming. Now we're calling them pulling parties, where we're pulling devices from buildings. And again, we have to take them, unwire cows and clean everything before we can send it out to families. But again, you put the call out there and people are stepping up. So that has been one of the most beautiful things that has come out of this. And we're so grateful that we have been down this Clever road for a few years now, because our staff is so used to using that with their students. That has been an easy thing for kids to access since they've been at home. So that too has gone really well. I just can't say enough how amazing. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime thing, we hope, right? And the thing that makes us the best humans is what we are seeing right now in Spokane and across the state of Washington. We're expecting a shelter-in-place announcement tonight for the state of Washington. But people are doing everything they can to support each other. So honestly, it's the best thing that's come out of this is really the team effort to lift this thing and get kids safe and secure and learning at home.
Yeah, thank you both, and thank you to everyone who's stepped up during this time. We're going to go into the Q&A, and let's start with one that I know is close to a lot of people's thoughts and is a really tough one. I don't know if anyone has a good solution to this yet, but Kimberly and Jennifer asked about how we can support the needs of students who are ELLs and also students who have IEPs. We know that students who have those kinds of challenges need a lot of support, and how can we possibly give it to them when they are remote? Has anyone started to think about this? And if you have ideas and you're a participant, please share them in the chat about how you can support students who are ELLs and IEPs during this time.
In Spokane, I can tell you what we're doing already is, first of all, our director for our English language department, or English language learners, is we have a language line. So principals and teachers can call the language line, get a hold of the parents, and make sure that those families are connected with resources. We also are working feverishly to get everything translated, all the communications that are coming out, like on the website. We're working quickly to get those translated and posted for those families as well. What else?
Well, I think we're really encouraging and trying to make sure that we have some training for our parents. Like if they don't already know, there's tools in our Office 365. I mean, even in your browser, there's tools, and we're trying to roll out some information so that they all know how to use that and they can get what they need.
Yeah, we're leveraging everything we have access to already.
Yeah. Troy, have you seen anything?
And we are working with our ELL is actually in teaching and learning, and ESE used to be, it's not now, but we work very closely with those groups of people and have been putting most of our stuff through the translation. We will have people manning the support lines who who can speak different languages. Most of ours is Spanish, but there are a good number of other languages that are spoken here in Tampa. And so we're working with those people, and hopefully we will have more stuff soon, because ESE has been working on their own additional stuff for access points and stuff, and we should be putting that stuff in soon.
I want to concur with what I saw in the chat too about using Zoom for students with IEPs and connecting with those families to make sure the students are getting supports. That has been sent out to all our SPED teachers, right? Through Clever?
Yes, special ed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna add
And
to
if
that.
you use
the office hours piece. I'm seeing teachers daily having a chunk of time from 10 to 11, and that since Zoom can be accessed on mobile, they're either using Zoom or Google Hangouts to meet with their English language learners or to meet with their students with special need, and just sort of setting up a daily routine so that those folks know what to get help, and saying, okay, when you work through these things, here's a dot, I want you to write down your questions, and when we meet tomorrow at 10 a.m., let's talk through your questions so that you can go at it again tomorrow afternoon. So that's been really cool to see.
And I'd just like to say too, if you have never used it before and you're a teacher and you have Spanish speaking students or actually other languages as well, and you use PowerPoint, there is a automatic translation feature. Now it's not perfect, of course, but it will translate your voice as you speak. And if they can read in Spanish, they would be able to understand what you're saying.
If folks are wondering how to get access to Zoom, if you are a district administrator, there's a way that you can sign up and get free Zoom accounts for all of your teachers and staff so they can communicate with students. I just posted the link in the chat to our Help Center article about how to set that up. So if you haven't taken advantage of that yet, please do. It does have a little bit of a lag time. We need to process your request, and so does Zoom. But we are getting through those incredibly quickly. And if you apply now, we should be able to get you set up by early next week. So thanks for talking about that really tough challenge around EL students with who are English language learners who have disabilities. Next question I'd like to get to is from Megan. She's asking kind of a technical one about Clever. She is an interventionist, so she doesn't have any class rosters herself in the SIS. And she's wondering how with apps like Myon or iReady, she can get access to her students so that she can give them assignments and give them activities and see how they're doing. We have some great answers from the audience here. Nicole suggested that the co-teacher option, so having Megan get added as a co-teacher in Clever might be a really great approach, and that can be a great one for interventionists. And then Carrie mentioned that there are some ways to create custom sections. So you can create a custom section where you can decide who the teachers are and add the students manually. Jeremy and Hillary, from your experience, how would you approach this? How would you make sure that interventionists are best set up in applications and in Clever?
Yeah, I can take this one. I would love to just do a quick plug for, we have a role in Clever called a school tech lead. And this is where you can actually delegate some of the task of kind of setting up those folks and making sure that they have the right access to the right sets of students because they are, used to working with that school. They kind of know the dynamics. They know who should be involved. So if you set up a school tech lead in Clever, that person can be assigned to a specific school, and then they can create custom sections for that school. So kind of just building on what Carrie so wisely recommended, I would say that you can actually delegate that and additional school type person do.
Thanks, Hillary. All right, a question from Susan that's come up in chat is a really great one. She's asking about Clever badges, that easy way that students, especially elementary students or students with disabilities, can hold a badge up to the webcam and get logged in. And she's wondering, students are at home and their badges are at school. How can we possibly distribute badges digitally to those elementary students? And that's a great question. I'm going to actually answer this one myself because I've been closely involved with the team that's thinking about it, but I'll also let our district folks see if they have any ideas. The way that you can do this today, my recommendation would be to encourage teachers to distribute badges. So teachers can go into Clever, they can click to download a badge for an individual student, and then they could send that badge to that student's family, however they communicate with the family, whether that's via text or an email or a communication tool like Remind or Class Dojo. I saw someone in the chat recommending Class Dojo. So that would be the way that I would recommend it today. And that will work if you have badges turned on for your district. We are also hearing this problem from lots of districts, and we want to take this on and make it easier for you. So the Clever team is working hard right now at finding a way that as a district, you could email or text message badges home to families and do it kind of in one go. But it's going to take us a little bit of time to build that feature, but we'll let you know as soon as it's ready. It does seem like one that could be really helpful during this time. Any other ideas or workarounds from our panelists?
I can tell you that that was the first thing. We have badges turned on for K2 kiddos and students with IEPs. So that was the first thing teachers thought of, is get them their badges so that they can take them home. Another thing we did is we made them in a, we downloaded the whole district set that we have by school and added that to a SharePoint so that building administrators could access it. So everybody has access to those, and they can copy paste right into an email to families from those documents, which has worked well, because then you don't even have to actually print out the badge. You can just hold up your smartphone with the code and then log your student in. So that's been great as well.
Yeah, I'm also thinking maybe badges could be available where meals are being picked up. So if someone comes in to pick up a meal, they could also pick up a badge. I know that might be tricky logistically. A quick question from Carrie. Carrie's already excited to make this happen, and she wants to know if she should add parent email as an extension field. Carrie, there actually is a way in Clever to load student contacts, and that would be the place today to load parent contact information. But right now, the way we're thinking about badge distribution is that it would probably be like a one-time upload. So we would give you a worksheet to fill out, and then you would enter the information there and upload it. So I wouldn't go and scramble to add information to Clever today for the purpose of distributing badges. We'll let you know what you need to do once the feature is live. All right, a question from Bo here, and that is about getting internet access at home. So we heard some amazing things that Spokane is doing to get devices home, but what are the resources for families that might not have great Wi-Fi? Has anyone seen anything great, any resources to share?
So much to share. So as you know, like all of the data caps have been lifted. So we're encouraging families to use their devices as a mobile hotspot if they have that. We are also deploying some, what do you call those things? These Wi-Fi things that we're going to put on some of our buildings that will point towards parking lots. So families can go to school parking lots to get free Wi-Fi through our district network. Oh, and then we're prepping a whole bunch of mobile hotspots that were donated by the Sprint 1 Million grant. We're doing that. We're buying hotspots to send home with families. We're doing absolutely everything we can. Was there anything else we were doing? I don't know, we're doing a lot.
Yeah, we have up on our website all the different options that the companies are doing so that they can get to those and participate. The other kind of the flip side of that is not just getting students access, but getting our staff access. I know our network team has been building wireless access points that can go in people's houses that they've been deploying. I know we've had to set up all sorts of different request lines and things so that people can get access to the network when they're at home. Because staff need to be able to work as well.
And I think Xfinity is doing a thing too, depending on the type of router you have, that they can actually cast outside your house to the neighborhood. So you can actually look at maps of your city to see what your coverage is through different companies and programs that are offering access. So we're doing that, and then we're targeting our low-income neighborhoods or those that have spotty access coverage. So we're trying to look at a citywide access to support people who need to get online.
Thanks, everyone. And Troy had to jump off into a critical stand-up meeting. So thank you, Troy, for all your contributions. And thank you all the Hillsborough folks who have shown up for this webinar. The next question I'd like to take is for folks thinking about how to manage the variety of devices that students might be learning with at home. It'd be wonderful if everyone had their normal one-to-one Chromebook or a really great desktop device, but we know that a lot of students will be learning on phones, on tablets, maybe even I've heard some people saying that they're going to be trying to learn on like a Fire TV device or a browser there. The first question thing I want to share here before we hand over to panelists is at Clever, the Clever website does work on a phone. It will work on a tablet, whether it's an iOS tablet or an Android tablet. We don't have a native app for Android, and you don't even need to use the native app on iOS. But if you just go to clever.com and log in, that will work. Now, not every application that you might be using might work on a phone. I know some are really limited to tablets and desktops only. But I would encourage everyone to, log in, give it a try on a phone, and see how it works, and then maybe communicate with your teachers about that. Anything else from our panelists about learning on kind of, non-traditional devices? I know it's Spokane. You're sending laptops home, so maybe that's not the top of mind for you.
I will say I've seen a few districts and teachers organize their portal in a way they just clearly lay out mobile-friendly apps, and then tablet and everything else. So being able to point families to the right resources that will work on whatever device they have by using those categories is one idea I've seen.
All right, we are running short on time, so I think we're just going to do one more quick question. There are some specific Hillsborough Q&A questions, which since Troy's gone, I don't think we're going to be able to tackle. I'm sorry about that. Let's see what is more broad here. A great idea from Justin here that as Justin's district adds more apps to Clever's portal, they are using categories, just like Jeremy said. They're making a category called Featured Resources of the Week that I really like to kind of focus on what might be best to try right now. Suzanne is interested in a way of adding text maybe to a teacher page or to a district to communicate. If you're a district leader, Suzanne, we do have an announcement feature, so you can post announcements to students or teachers or staff. If you're a teacher, we don't have a way to add text, but one thing that we've seen a lot of teachers do is to create a Google Doc saying announcements or agenda for today, and then add a link to that Google Doc in Clever. So that could be something that you recommend to your teachers.
I can chime in here with one fun thing that some of our teachers are doing is they are creating videos. They're just videotaping themselves, greeting their children or giving them an assignment, putting it in, we're Office 365 district, so they're putting it in SharePoint or Stream and then sharing that link through Clever. So kids just open their teacher page and they watch the daily video from their teacher.
Lauren from New York asked a question about data feeds out of Clever. How can you help districts populate dashboards of data from Clever? Lauren, if you go to Clever's analytics page, we do have a download to CSV option. I know that that's not the automated integration you're hoping for, but you could download that and upload that into whatever analytics tool you have to see how folks are logging in. All right, we are at time. I just want to give such a great and huge shout out to all of our panelists, Betsy and Chris, and Jeremy and Hillary, and of course, Troy. This has been fantastic. We do have, I think, one final poll for you. I know we were having a little bit of a poll challenge earlier, but the question we want to ask is, would it be helpful if we did more events like this? So if you see the poll, answer it. If you don't, let us know in chat. We would love to continue to doing these town halls if you find them useful. So let us know what you think. I also have some crazy ideas. Maybe we could find some other ways of staying in touch. Okay, I'm getting a lot of yeses. Sounds like we'll do another town hall. I love it. I just joined a community where there's a Slack group where folks are sharing ideas. That's been really great. It may also be useful to create like a Facebook group or something like that. So we'll be thinking over the weekend about how we can stay in touch and share ideas. And we'll definitely do another webinar town hall like that. I'm so happy that people have found this useful. I know that I've heard so many great ideas. Thanks to our panelists, thanks to our attendees for the great questions and ideas. I guess we'll see you all soon, maybe in a week. Bye everyone, stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.